everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you a mixed media abstract canvas that I created. And I'm using the prompts from the hashtag event that's been going on all August. That's AJOS Abstract August. I'm going to use 6 of the prompts, but the main one that I wanted to focus on was pod. And to me, a pod shape is kind of a rounded, sinuous looking diamond shape, sort of. And you'll see me making them. But I wanted this to be very curvy. I wanted it to have a lot of feminine shapes to it. No grids, no lines, nothing like that. So I was talking about color. I decided after looking at the papers that I'd pulled for collage that I wanted to do a tetrad of yellow, green, blue, violet, yellow, orange, and red, violet. And those were going to be my colors for my composition. When you're doing abstract, color is important because you're not making a thing. You're not making, a picture of a tree or a picture of a cat or something. You're making something that should speak to the viewer and let them dictate what it means to them. And a great way to create emotion in a person is with color. And of course, I'm obsessed with color. That's like my favorite thing. So I wanted to start out with collage because I often do. Sometimes I do all collage. Sometimes I can combine it like I am today. And I'm cutting these shapes, this pod shapes and these sinuous shapes. And I didn't want to lose what I was doing, so I decided to glue a few of them together as I was going. I have a cutting mat and I have a brand new blade on my X-Acto knife, and I'm just using those and then tacking these together so that I remember what I did. Sometimes I will have this beautiful collage layout that I've created on a project, and then I dump off all the papers to get to start the collage, and then I forget how they went. And a good way to prevent that is to take a picture so that you know so you can reassemble it. That's the best way. But my phone was being used as a camera, so I didn't have a chance to take a picture. So I decided to just hack them together, and in that way I will know what I had and what I was trying to make here. So yeah, pod shapes, sinuous lines. They can mean a lot of things. They kind of look like plants or leaves or maybe a calla lily type shape. They also kind of look like organs, like maybe that's the stomach and the intestines. I mean, that's kind of gross, but they do. They also look like other, they're sinuous, like feminine forms. And I think we need more feminine energy right now, more forgiveness, more things that are attributed, and maybe I'm being sexist, attributed to females, the acceptance and loving type of a energy that you would get from a mom or something. So that's where I was going with this. I'm cutting out some more little shapes and gluing them on. I'm using Liquitex Matte Gel Medium and my Distress Collage brush to do this. And I also often will spritz the back of the paper, and then if it's a really large piece or it's a heavy piece of paper like that greenish one on the left is it's mixed media paper, and so it's thicker, and I need it to really adhere. I'm trying to make sure that everything adheres really well. I have a scraper tool to scrape out any bubbles, and I'm trying to remember to put glue underneath and on top, so that I can make sure to get everything glued down really well. When I added that dark piece, that really made me happy. It made that pink piece kind of come out more and show itself. Really love this piece of paper. I don't know, it kind of got lost in the piece though, but I was putting it on and then I thought, oh, it looks like a calla lily, and I had to figure out where to put it. But yeah, this is the way I started my composition, was to put these pieces on. This is a wooden canvas, and it is 12 by 12. I got it from Arteza Company. I do have an affiliate Arteza link down below if you'd like to use that to purchase Arteza products. That helps me out a little bit. I also have an Amazon affiliate store and an Amazon affiliate account. It doesn't cost you anything extra to do that. It just it's a way of you using those places to buy things, and then I get credit for sending you there. So that's what it's all about. So I'm just about done collaging, and I decide I've got my pods on there. I've got kind of 3 of the pod-like shapes, and then some other ones that are more transparent because they're developed by 2 lines, but that's the shape that I'm going for. Making sure everything's stuck down, and then I'm looking at the list, and I decide to use the list to drive some of the other things that I'm going to do, because I am at the end of the month is coming. I haven't used all the prompts, and this is my challenge. So I should at least finish it myself, you know. But I did kind of take some time off there. Couldn't bring myself to make any art for almost a week. Things are stressful, and it's hard for people who are empathetic and who artistic creative people are often empathetic, and I'm one of those people. I see all this destruction and pain, and it's hard for me to want to make art, but I know that it's great therapy, and I know that I should do it. I should do it. I should make art. I should make myself more happy by making art, but sometimes I just can't. So that's just the way it is. Also, yeah, I get burnout. I mean, this is a challenge that has a prompt for every day if you wanted to do it that way, and that's a lot of stuff. So for my water prompt, I decided to use watery media to fill in my background, and I've got some acrylic inks. Some of them are the Sennelier Abstract acrylic ink. It's called Abstract. I don't know why. It just is. That's what they call it. That's the brand or whatever. They actually have a whole line of products called Abstract from Sennelier. And then I also have some of the Matisse acrylic inks that I bring out later. And I do have one India ink. Acrylic inks and India inks seem similar, but they do have a different binder. Acrylic has a kind of a rubbery, plasticky binder, and then India ink has something else, which is either a resin or maybe it's I'm not sure at the moment. I used to know this, but I'm not sure. But the India ink tends to be a lot more opaque, and the acrylic ink can be thinned down with water and still have a lot of pigment to it, but be, watery looking. So that takes care of my water prompt. Now I'm talking about light, and that is another prompt on the list. Talking about light sources. Where is your light coming from? Where would the highlights be? Where would the shadows be? That's what I was talking about when I was doing this part. And I decided to create light coming from the upper left-hand side and going down to the right side at the bottom, like a ray coming through the middle at a diagonal. So I'm using the India ink, which is a nice opaque white India ink, and then I'm blending it with water to make it less opaque so that I don't completely cover the colors that I'm doing, and adding highlights here and there. Another thing to think about when you're adding highlights, or when you're really in abstract, something that you really should think about as you're creating your composition is opposites or contrast. Like if you have a thin line, you should have a thick line. If you have, shapes that contrast with each other, it makes it more interesting, and people want to view it more if there's a lot of things that are opposing each other on the canvas. And so if you have light, you should have shadow, and I will put in shadow later, but I'm still adding light, and this time I'm using some stencils. These are actually a mask style stencil from StencilGirl. These are very organic, and I have a few different ones. I believe, well, I'm not going to say who they're designed by because I'm not 100% sure actually, but I will try to find the links and put them down below for StencilGirl products in these. They're like tangled up grass and wisteria vines and things like that. And when you're trying to do something really organic like this, these are fun to add in. I started with some white acrylic paint, and then I'm using my same colors of acrylic inks. I have a brush that is a makeup brush in a toothbrush style that's fun for stenciling and usually works pretty well. So then, since I have all that light, I need to add in some dark. And so I'm mixing the turquoise and the one called Nightfall, which is like a Payne's gray blue acrylic ink together, and starting to add in some shadows. And I have it watered down and I'm blending them out. And then in some cases, I come back in with the stencil and pull some of it back through the stencil to continue with those organic shapes. Kind of interesting. I like the contrast of that real watery edge, or even the abstract edge with, the weird edge with the stencil against the sharp edge on the other side. So there's more of that contrast. It makes it more interesting. And I'm just going along the edges of some of my collaged areas. I can wipe it back with a baby wipe if it gets too dark, so I'm not worried about that. This is a very dark color, but you can't have light if you don't have dark, right? Gotta have it. So this goes on for quite a while. I'm really having a lot of fun with this watery fluid mix of acrylic inks and putting them on, and then blending them out with more water and thinking about that. And I have a lot of thicker lines, and at some point here, sometime in this process, because right now I'm just adding the shadows on the edge. So I've got the light on one side and the shadow on the other. I start kind of painting in these thin lines that could either be branches. Here we go. This is the prompt thin. Branches or maybe veins. They kind of look like veins too. So if you're thinking about this as maybe organs or something inside a body, then these could be thought of as veins. I prefer to think of them as plant shapes, roots or trees or something like that. But I just got into painting them and it was fun. I liked it. It was a little round brush. So that's the prompt thin. Then the next prompt I decided to tackle was dots, and I brought out a different stencil, and it has these dot shapes on it that kind of to me look like coffee beans or maybe clam shells. I'm not sure. But I just kept on with the acrylic ink, and I should have switched to a thicker product because the acrylic ink's not really that great for stenciling. It goes under the stencil, but I wasn't too worried because I was planning on doing pen work. So not too worried about that. And I added those dots through my pod shapes as if they have seeds inside, because they're pods, right? Pods would have seeds. Seeds, growth, change, all those things. And then I also used a little section of it that has kind of some square shapes along the edge there, which looked pretty darn cool after I'd done it. I was pretty happy with it. I like that. So that was dots, the prompt. And then I'm looking at it and I see another one, drip. Boy, do I like to do drip. It looks great in abstract pieces. So again, with the acrylic ink, I'm just going to stick with the same colors of the acrylic inks. I've got a water bottle and I'm letting that acrylic ink drip down the canvas. I've got that yellow-green color. I've got this turquoise color, which is really the turquoise color is where I started out today. That's the color that I picked as what I wanted to focus on, and I used my color wheel. And yeah, anyway, I was having a turquoise day. This piece is very bright and colorful and has a lot of colors on it, but the start of it was the turquoise. I also used some of the orange acrylic ink And I think I even used some of the pink. I'm not sure if I did use the pink actually. I love that super fluorescent, bright, bright pink color as well in combination. There it is. There's some of the pink. Spraying it, letting it run and drip like it wants to with some control, but not much, and then blotting it back if it gets too crazy. And then I gave this thing a really good dry because I wanted to come in with some pen work. This is a fine tip white Posca pen. Remember, when you're using Posca pens, you need to shake them up really good. Shake them, shake them, shake them, and then prime them by pumping it down on a piece of paper until the ink runs free. And then if you are having trouble with your Posca pen splattering, like it hits bump and splatters out and makes you mad, you're pushing too hard. You need to give it a real light touch and just let it flow. So shake it, prime it with pumping it on the paper, and then light touch, let it flow. A couple people have asked me recently. I use Posca pens all the time, and I love them. And some people have been getting frustrated with them. So those are my tips. Another thing you can do with the Posca pen is you can make a line and then you can blend it. And so I was doing that with my pen as well. I'm using a water tank brush to do that. This is a Pentel brand one. And just adding in some more of that bright white. The Posca pen acrylic ink that's inside of it is very opaque. So even if I'm blending it out with the water, I still get an opaque look with it. It adds a lot of brightness to what I'm doing. I hope you guys are enjoying this month-long Abstract August series. I've been having a lot of fun. We'll try to really flip it for next month if you guys are getting tired of abstracts. We'll do some real something else next month. Not sure what yet. We'll figure it out because the time is coming really quickly. And then if you are liking it, of course, remember to give it a thumbs up, please. Subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notification bells. And of course, you can share this on Pinterest. You can pin it to your board of abstracts or save it to a playlist on your YouTube. You can do all kinds of things that help out YouTube finding my channel. So that's what I'm trying to go for. So then the last thing I did, it's almost the last I think, is I decided to add some punch to some of these colors, brighten them up, because this thing turned out really bright. So I got out my Stabilo Woodies, which is like a water-soluble crayon, and I'm using those to either add color in a spot or add marks in a spot, and then I'm using my water brush to blend it because Stabilo is very water reactive. Now that I've used this is one thing that won't dry, so I'm going to have to spray this piece with a clear sealer, which I will do outside. I have a clear UV resistant sealer that I use over my art. So that's what I'll be doing with this because I need to seal in that Stabilo. It's going to remain water soluble forever. It doesn't stop being water soluble. If you really didn't want to have to seal your piece, you could use the Inktense pencils instead. I just thought it would be nice to use these fat ones. Plus, they were right there next to me, and they had similar colors: yellow, green, bright yellow, orange, turquoise. You know, it's the same colors as I'm using, and so yeah, I decided to do that. I brought in some of that red violet, which I didn't have very much of it on there. Some of my papers had it, but then they kind of got covered up. So I brought it back in with the crayon and brought back some of the marks that were on the papers, the collage papers, which were gel prints. They're all gel prints. So this was fun. I think it's probably not completely done. I'm going to let it hang for a few days and see if there's some other things I want to do to it. But this is mostly how it's going to end up. I did come back in with that stencil and make a few more white marks in a few areas with, that's a good mark making stencil, has a lot of interesting marks on it. And I think off the camera I did a little bit of finger painting with the very, very fluorescent pink paint that's on there. I just added it in a few places with my finger and blended it out. And that was it for today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye, guys.